everyone, it is me, Dr. Kalani. Oh my, it has been a very busy Friday afternoon. So let me apologize first for coming on here a little bit late. I'm about an hour late. So today's Friday 5 live is actually at 6, not at 5 p.m. But I definitely wanted to come on here and share some important information with you. I had to take my son to the dentist, and of course, whenever you go to the doctor's office, things get delayed. But our health is our wealth, so I have to practice what I preach and make sure that my son got his checkup. So thank you for having patience with me, and thank you for joining me this evening. It is very warm down here. It's about 75 degrees here in South Carolina, and I'm excited to get this weekend started. And so I just wanted to impart some information and some knowledge to you guys this weekend. I know many of you are about to go out, have a good time, maybe go partying or have a date night with the hubby. And so this topic is definitely going to apply to each and every one of you this weekend if you're engaging in some type of physical activity, if you know what I mean. So without further ado, I am your host, Dr. Kalani Tuitt. I am a best-selling author. I am an international speaker and blogger. I have a podcast called Your Caribbean Doctor, and I am a concierge physician. I help busy professionals who travel internationally, who travel coast to coast, or if you're just busy at home with children or work and you cannot make it to the doctor's office between 9 to 5, I'm your physician. I have a virtual care practice that helps you build abundant wealth and health through my concierge practice so that you can have access to premium healthcare on demand. And so today's topic is about sexually transmitted infections and how you can prevent them. And so I'm not going to go into detail about all the different types of sexually transmitted infections. However, this topic is definitely for everyone. This is something you can share with your children, your prepubescent teenagers who start to have all these hormones and they don't know what to do with them. Or if you have a teenager in high school who has a little boyfriend or a crush, definitely you want to start talking to your kids about sex and how to protect themselves, and how to abstain or how to reduce their risk of getting pregnant or getting a sexually transmitted disease. This is certainly for those who are in college, and a lot of times when you go to college, you have a lot of different experiences, a lot of first experiences there, and how to protect yourself there. Certainly for those who are engaged and looking to get married, or even married couples, and sometimes within a marriage there are infidelities and there are trials and tribulations. Your husband or wife may have gotten sick and they may not be able to perform. So sometimes I've had patients come in and the husband's like, I need to get tested because I had an affair with someone else, and it was because they just wanted to have that woman or that man touch them because your partner couldn't perform because they were ill. Sometimes you have widowers, and so now after several years they're going back out and dating, and they're trying to learn how to navigate that. And that's one of their biggest fears. They're like, I've been with my husband and only my husband for the last 30 years, and now I'm dating and I want to know, how can I protect myself because I don't want to catch a disease. Or you can be someone who's older, who's just single, and you're still out there having fun. And you just want to know, okay, when I travel, I want to protect myself. What can I do to protect myself? So this topic it applies to everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm not sure who just joined, but we're talking about how to prevent yourself from getting a sexually transmitted infection. And so definitely, there are many different diseases out there. Some of them you are stuck with for your life, and some you can treat. So the ones you can treat are like gonorrhea, chlamydia. You can also get syphilis. If you catch it early enough, you can treat it. But sometimes these things can cause long-term complications. For example, with gonorrhea and chlamydia, if you don't treat it, did you know that you can actually have that infection go to your joints and you can end up with chronic knee pain or joint pain anywhere in your body? Also with gonorrhea and chlamydia, for some women, if you don't get treated on time, then you could potentially have problems with getting pregnant in the future. So it's very important that you get yourself tested and go to your regular checkups and discuss any changes in your bodily habits with your provider. So certainly, definitely, we want to talk about ones that you can have for life, such as HIV, such as HPV. HPV is the virus that can actually cause cervical cancer in women. It can cause penile cancer in men. And sometimes it can actually cause genital warts. And so there are ways to prevent yourself from even getting these disorders. And then there's hepatitis B that stays with you forever. And there's treatments, but there's no cure. And so it's very important that you are aware of the different diseases that can impact your health. So, with that said, I definitely want to go into the 5 different ways you can prevent yourself from getting a sexually transmitted infection. And so, number 1, of course, is abstinence. We preach this to our youth. We preach this to our children, saving yourself. And I find we preach this more to our young girls than to our boys. But it's important that we talk to both of them and let them know the value of their body and let them know that they don't have to share their body with anyone anytime. Hold on one second. My son just came home and he wants to turn on the TV. So I'll be right back. Hey, the joys of being a mother, right? So, hey, Charlotte, thanks for joining me today. We're talking about 5 ways to prevent yourself from getting a sexually transmitted infection. And so this talk is for anyone with young kids or elderly patients who are widowers who are trying to get back out there in the dating field. So the first one is abstinence. Obviously, with our young kids, we want to teach them that their bodies are a temple and you want to value that and you don't want to share it with any and anyone. Definitely the way, if you limit the amount of partners you have, you reduce your risk of getting a sexually transmitted infection. Waiting until you're married and you share that moment with that person is definitely something that you should share with that person, and then you'll know for sure that both of you don't have anything. And if something does come into the relationship, you know someone has broken that bond between you. And so that's why it's important for you to speak to your children about how important their body is. Their mind, their body, their soul is so important. Everybody should respect that. Nobody should pressure them into having sex. And if they're not ready, then they need to know the power of the word no. It's a complete sentence. And if someone is pressuring them, then they need to get out of that situation. And so it's important that you definitely talk to your children about those things. And one of my fellow colleagues, she has written a book about teen wise, Dr. Suleka, and maybe I'll have her on here one day to talk about that. So that's the first thing, definitely preaching abstinence and waiting until marriage. But I'm a realist. I know how kids are. I was in high school. I know the pressures and the pressures on teenagers, especially boys, feel like the more women they're with, they're better, they're more popular, and women feel like they have to sell their bodies or give themselves to someone to feel loved, and that has to deal with their self-esteem. So if we build our children's self-esteem, both boys and girls, maybe we can make an impact and reduce the risk of teenage pregnancy or reduce the risk of sexually transmitted diseases in the teenage population. And definitely get your kids involved in different activities so they don't get bored, because that's what typically happens. I work in a rural community, and there really isn't much else for these kids to do. So kids are having sex at 12, 13, 16, and they're coming home pregnant or with sexually transmitted disease multiple times. And it's so important, and I stress education, I stress getting kids involved, I stress parents being involved in their kids' lives so that they know what's going on. So make sure that you talk to your children about abstinence. So the second step in reducing your risk of developing sexually transmitted infections is don't share undergarments or towels. So you'll be like, ew, why would I wear somebody else's underwear? But a lot of times, sometimes teenagers, they may be in the gym, they may go swimming, they may have forgotten their underclothes, or you're trying to dry off your skin and maybe your towel's dirty and you want to share it, but you don't know what someone else has, especially if an adult is sharing a towel with a child or whatnot. And so you definitely don't want to share like your washcloths or anything that touches any part of your body personally, because some diseases like herpes can be transmitted just through physical contact. So if I use a washcloth, wash myself, and then you go and use it behind me, then you could definitely contract it that way. Unfortunately, those things do happen in rare circumstances. So definitely don't share undergarments with anyone, and make sure you teach your children not to do that. The third way of reducing sexually transmitted infections is to get vaccinated. There are some diseases that we can prevent, and then your children will never have to experience them. So the first one is hepatitis B. Hepatitis B is transmitted through sexual contact. It can cause jaundice. It can cause your urine to be very dark. It can cause abdominal pain. And if it's not treated in time, it can actually lead you to have liver failure or liver cancer. And so these are things that you are completely unaware of, and all it takes is one mistake of you having unprotected sex and you're stuck with this disease for the rest of your life. So it's so important that you protect yourself. The other disease that is preventable is the HPV vaccine, which is human papillomavirus. And that's a vaccine that we want to definitely get our children, boys and girls, vaccinated between like the ages of 11 to 12 or 11 to 16, because or actually 11 to 26, so that you want to catch them before they become sexually active. And if they have become sexually active, you can still vaccinate them. And there is a vaccine where adults can get it too. But this vaccine actually protects against the two strains that cause cervical cancer, which is HPV 16 and 18, and the two major strains that causes genital warts, and which can be disfiguring to some people. And so you definitely want to get your children vaccinated against this virus, because it can reduce your risk of cervical cancer. Within the Caribbean, the number one cause of, or actually the second cause of cancer-related death is cervical cancer. Number one is breast cancer. But why? That's something that we can prevent and something that we could reduce the risk. But if you don't get vaccinated, you're definitely not going to be able to prevent cancer-related deaths. So make sure you get your children vaccinated or get yourself vaccinated. Number 4. So we talked about abstinence. We talked about not sharing undergarments or towels. The third one is to get vaccinated. The fourth way to prevent yourself from getting a sexually transmitted infection is to get tested with your partner. So if you've been dating someone for a while, and ways to kind of prevent yourself from being in a situation that you don't want to have sex is to go out with friends, go out in a large group, meet in public places, go out during the day. Don't go out at night and have this intimate setting where you set yourself up for a situation you may not be ready for. But if you are ready and you're like, you know what, we've been dating for a long time and I'm ready to take the next step, definitely, why not go get tested together? What's the fear? If you want to be with me and I want to be with you, we should be able to go to the doctor together and make sure that we are both healthy. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you mention that to someone and they shy away and they're like, why would you want to do that? No, I don't feel comfortable. Then something is wrong and you need to get out of that situation. And so it's so imperative that you know your status and you know what your partner's status is. Because if you are intimate with them and something happens, then you'll know exactly where it came from. So that is so important, and too many of us don't do that. And so definitely you can go to a free health clinic, or you can go to your regular doctor and go together and see the results together, because you don't want someone bringing you old results from a year ago or making up their own results. You can't trust people nowadays. People do anything on the internet. So the fifth way to reduce your risk of developing sexually transmitted infections is to use condoms. Always condoms, condoms, condoms. Now, yes, granted, some people are fearful of condoms. They're like, oh, it doesn't feel right. Or you may truly have a latex allergy. There are alternative forms of condoms that you can use. And so definitely condoms can protect you. Latex condoms can protect you from sexually transmitted infections, and it protects you against pregnancy. And so you definitely want to know how to use a condom properly, both men and women. Both men and women should carry their own condoms, and you should know how to use them properly. And so But say you do have a latex allergy. And so there are several different forms. So I'm going to tell you about them. So I don't know if you are familiar with the polyurethane condom. And this is made from a specific type of plastic. It has no latex in it. It actually can reduce pregnancy, and it actually protects against sexually transmitted infections. Most people say that it's thinner, but it's not as form-fitting as a latex condom. So it may not transmit as much heat so that you have the pleasure that you typically have with a latex condom. There's no odor, and it actually has a longer shelf life than latex. So that is one option. The next option is a polyisoprene condom. And this is a synthetic form of latex. It doesn't have the proteins that typically cause the allergic reaction as in latex condoms. And they can actually prevent against pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. And they're actually a little stretchier than the polyurethane condoms. And they, you have to use a little bit of lubricant to prevent breakage and to prevent you, so that they fit a little better on you. Then there is the FC2 condom. This is actually the female condom. This is actually made from nitrile, so it has no latex in it, and the woman actually wears it. So if there's a man who's like, oh, I can't wear condoms, they don't fit me right, oh, none of them fit me because they think they're so big, you know that's not true, right? But the female condom is actually much bigger than most condoms. The female inserts it into her, and the guy actually feels it has a more natural feel to them. So and it's also pre-lubricated, so you don't have to get lubrication, but you can use lubrication with it. And so this is something that you can also use to kind of prevent you from using, or if you have a latex allergy. And then, of course, there's the natural skin condoms, which are lambskin condoms. Now, did you know that lambskin condoms are actually made from a thin layer of a sheep's cecum, which is part of the colon, which I thought was kind of weird, but that's what they're made from. And so they actually do not protect against sexually transmitted infections. But the reason people like to use them a lot is because it's so thin. It gives the man a feeling or a sensation of the natural pleasures of intercourse. So that's why people like to use them, but they don't protect you from any form of sexually transmitted infection. So you have to be extremely careful. Make sure you get tested with your partner before you use those types of condoms. You just use those condoms to prevent pregnancy. And so I didn't really talk about oral sex or anal sex, but you can get sexually transmitted infections from oral sex or anal sex. So the same diseases that a man or a woman can get in their vaginal area or in their penile area, you can get them in your mouth or in the anus. So for example, let me give you a story. I had a young girl who came into my office, and she wanted me to test her. She kept complaining of having a sore throat. It's been going on for a few weeks, and she was treated with some generic antibiotic, and it wasn't going away. And so she finally broke down and told me that she had intercourse with one person and she used condoms, but she had oral sex with 3 other people. And so we swabbed her, and come to find out she had chlamydia in her throat. I was like, wow, I've never seen that before, but I've read about it, and yes, it does happen. So you got to use protection even with oral sex or any kind of other form of intercourse that you are having, because if you have a disease, you can transmit it through any mucous membrane. So that's your mouth, that's vaginal area, and the rectum. So always protect yourself, whether you are having regular sex with a man and a woman, or you are having intercourse with the same sex. You still got to protect yourself, because anything is possible. So I hope this helps someone learn a little bit more about the different ways you can protect yourself from getting a sexually transmitted infection, especially with the different types of condoms, because I didn't even realize there were so many different types, and they are definitely available online and in various stores. So there is no reason you should be getting a sexually transmitted infection in this day and age in 2019 if you are protecting yourself. And always, always, always talk to your children about sex. Start from an early age. Let children call their private parts by their real names. You have a vagina and you have a penis. In the Caribbean, we have all kinds of names for it. We have nanny, we have toti, we have pipe, we have all kinds of names. We make all these names up for things, but you could confuse children. So they need to know exactly what it's called so that they can say, oh, this is what's wrong with my body. Mommy, my vagina hurts. And you need to find out why. So education is key, Dr. Charlotte. Thank you for writing that in. And so I definitely hope this helps somebody. Make sure you share this with somebody because you might be able to help them. Share it with your teenagers. I'm definitely aiming this at the younger population, but definitely my older patients who are widowers, who are afraid of going out there. There's nothing wrong with dating and finding someone new and finding a companion, but definitely protect yourself because actually in the older population, over the age of 65, the sexual transmission of infection rate is actually going up because they are not using protection. And so you have all these older patients that are enjoying themselves, but they're getting sexually transmitted infections. And it can be devastating. That happened to another patient of mine. They came into the office and they've been in relations and she was like, oh, I just want to get checked. I said, okay. And come to find out she had something. Luckily, it was treatable, but that really rocked her world and she's now shut down and doesn't even want to talk to anyone anymore. So definitely share this with everyone. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Kalani Tuitt. I'm a board-certified family medicine physician, an Amazon best-selling author. I'm an international speaker and blogger, and I'm the host of Your Caribbean Doctor podcast. What I would like you to do is definitely follow me on all social media at drkalani.com. DRKELENNE, and definitely send me a link in the message if you have any topics that you want me to discuss. Definitely reach out to me if you want to discuss your own personal health care. I have a virtual medicine practice where I could talk to you on a platform like this where you can see me through your telephone or your computer. And if you need me to visit you in person, I can do that as well. And we can talk about whatever medical issues that you have, weight loss, or if you just need someone to counsel you on certain things. So definitely reach out to me wherever you are. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Charlotte, and whoever else is on the line. If you're watching the replay, definitely write #replay and share this with your friends. Have a wonderful evening and God bless.